this weekend, you might have been out to one of our many lakes. Maybe you were at one of the cottage areas around Lake Winnipeg specifically. Well, if you were, there's a chance that you saw something that is less than beautiful. A resident of Sandy Hook says there's a lot of pollution on Lake Winnipeg right now. Linda Mose has lived in Sandy Hook, which is just north of Gimli, for a decade. And she says she's seeing new types of garbage washing up on shore.
When I get up in the morning, I like to go down, and I'm grateful for where we live, and I go down and say hello to the lake. And unfortunately, we went down there and we were just totally shocked by how bad, like we've seen, there's odd things coming around. I mean, it is a lake and it is a huge body of water and the winds change, but we've never ever seen what we saw that day with the pollution and it was not a doubt that it was sewer. There was sanitary, female hygiene products. There were needles, syringes, and a lot of debris. And it was very shocking to see that.
That was Linda Mose talking about the pollution that she recently saw firsthand in Sandy Hook. Now, Alexis Kanu is the executive director of Lake Winnipeg Foundation, and she's with us this morning. Good morning.
Hi, Marcy.
So I know that you've said before that you believe that this type of garbage, is coming from Winnipeg. Can you elaborate on what makes you say that?
Well, when I saw Linda's photos, it was like a gut punch. It immediately reminded me of a combined sewer overflow that I experienced one February a couple of years ago along the Assiniboine River near my house. We were out walking along the beautiful riverbank in the winter, and the water was so low that the combined sewer overflow pipes were discharging onto the ice. And I saw sitting on the ice of the Assiniboine River exactly what Linda saw on the shores of Lake Winnipeg. We know that the sewer pipe that's broken at Abinogi-Mickinaw keeps discharging with these spring storms that we're having. And so that sewage spill that everyone was horrified with in February is not over. It's ongoing.
So obviously Linda was describing the garbage, feminine hygiene products, needles, etc. Do you have a sense of how often people are reporting specifically those types of things now?
Well, I actually get notifications from the city of Winnipeg when the sewage spills overflow, when there's an unregulated discharge of sewage. And that's been happening almost daily for the past couple of weeks. We've all experienced these extreme storms. Those are causing overflows at the broken pipe at the pumping station at Abinogi-Mackinac.
Have you seen pollution levels like this before?
Well, we've always known that we're discharging far too much phosphorus into Lake Winnipeg from our wastewater treatment plants. And it's really important to note that the North End treatment plant is releasing non-compliant effluent and has been doing so for decades. The phosphorus load coming out of that treatment plant is the single largest point source to Lake Winnipeg, and it's absolutely something that we need to address. It needs to be a priority for the city and the province. But it doesn't discount the fact that the rest of the system is also in need of upgrades. And I think what we've seen is a deficit across our entire sewage treatment system in the city of Winnipeg. But what we're seeing on our beaches is the consequence of turning a blind eye to what we're doing to water in the city.
The city said to CBC in a statement, quote, "It's difficult to conclusively determine the source of litter in the region as there are multiple communities, campgrounds, cottages, and other properties in the area, not to mention substantial recreational activity on the lake, including large ice fishing areas in the winter months." End quote. What's your reaction to the response?
I think it then falls upon Manitoba Environment, the provincial environmental regulator, and Environment and Climate Change Canada, who enforce the Federal Fisheries Act, to investigate and tell us all conclusively where this sewage waste is coming from. This is a violation of federal legislation, of Environmental Act licenses, and our higher levels of government have a responsibility to investigate and to tell us both what happened and what the impacts of it are.
How big of an impact does sewage have on the lake?
Excess phosphorus from Winnipeg sewage is one of the significant causes of algal blooms on the lake. It's certainly not the only cause, and we can't stop at solutions for Winnipeg sewage treatment. We need to look within agricultural areas of the watershed for solutions as well. But I think this is a very tangible experience of that impact, right? Walking down to the beach, saying hello to the lake in the morning, and then when you encounter this sludgy brown water, when you encounter these plastic pieces of garbage washing up on shore, that's certainly not the lake that Manitobans and people who live on its shores are expecting to meet. What it's going to take to get ahead of this is citizens speaking up. And I know it's a long-term challenge. It can be frustrating and daunting. But when we work together, we do actually have tangible impacts on improving this. So LWF and its members have been advocating for an interim phosphorus reduction solution at the North End treatment plant. This is an idea we first brought forward in 2018. And later this month, that interim phosphorus reduction solution will be up and running at the North End treatment plant. That's a tangible infrastructure solution that was implemented because of the advocacy of regular lake lovers. And governments had no choice but to listen and require this solution to be implemented.
What would you ask the Premier? He's on our program this week for the regular monthly interview that we have with him here on CBC. What would your question to him be around your concerns?
I would urge the Premier to look to the widely available evidence that supports a phosphorus-first approach to sewage treatment. That research comes out of the world-renowned Experimental Lakes area in northwestern Ontario. The scientists that conduct that research live right here in Winnipeg, and it's high time that our province recognizes the weight of that evidence and uses it to guide our environmental policy.
Thank you for your time this morning, Alexis.
Thanks very much, Marcy.
Alexis Kanu, the executive director of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. I was in conversation with her on Friday about what a resident of Sandy Hook saw on the shores of the lake at the end of May. And you've seen some photos up on our site this morning, rather on our YouTube stream this morning while we were hearing the interview. Now, the city of Winnipeg, as I alluded to during the conversation, in addition to the statement I read earlier, also said they're committed to, quote, protecting Lake Winnipeg, and this is demonstrated by the upgrades we're making at our sewage treatment plants and the implementation of the combined sewer overflow master plan, end quote. That interview, by the way, regular interview with the Premier coming up on Thursday this week.